Welcome to Laughing Trails Podcast, where adventure meets the absurdity and mischief of a life well lived. And today, there will be a lot of mischief. Our intention is to break barriers and rattle the trees of possibilities, to explore what beauty might open up when we dare to live outside of the box, while we also share accessibility tidbits about our adventures. Remember, we are only two voices in a greater community. Therefore, we are only responsible for our own adventures, like the ones today. We are not responsible for yours. So have what you need on the trail. This episode is sponsored by Barton Cutter Coaching. If you are looking to discover your path or even design your own trail in this wild world, reach out to Barton directly at bartoncutter.com to learn more. If you laugh along the way, please subscribe and write a review. It will help our voices be heard and be more visible. And today, we likely will have our little husky chime in as well.
She's already said hello.
Yes, she has. So today we are featuring Flagstaff Mountain. I say that every one of our adventures are amazing, and Barton called me out on the last episode. So this one is more of the unknown adventures that we found a bunch of really cool trails along the way. So we'll be talking about those.
Yeah. Hey, so for your reference, there are probably 3 or 4 trails, um, all the way up this mountain, and you access them by driving up a road which meanders back and forth of, of the side of the hill. Um, there is a way to hike the whole thing, but that is very inaccessible and, and can't do that, so we haven't done that.
Flagstaff Mountain is behind Chautauqua in Boulder, and the road actually goes past Chautauqua, and you keep going straight, um, and then up. There are a lot of curves up the mountain, and I will say that in our accessible van, that is one of the more adventuresome parts to make the incline
For Megan.
for
She,
me, particularly when they're bicyclists and or hikers along the road. It does make it a little bit more challenging to get around them and make sure that I'm staying on the right side of the road.
oh my god, and the bicyclists are nuts. They, they think they own this road, which is already very narrow. Um, so, yes, Megan gets very tense going both up and down for good reason.
And on the way down, you will want to use your low gear to save your brakes. That was one of the first things that we learned on the trip.
Anyway, enough about the road. Let's talk hiking.
The first point along Flagstaff Mountain is called Panorama Point. It's about a quarter of the way up.
Um, for those of you that like elevation, it's about 75,000 feet. Um, maybe close to 8,000 feet. Um, but, but it is this beautiful lookout. It doesn't have much of a trail, but it is a really gorgeous lookout toward the east. Beautiful views of Boulder and depending on the day, supposedly you are able to see all the way to Kansas.
There's some great informational displays. I really did not know that Boulder was underwater 65 million years ago. And there's some great information around the different time periods and how the Rocky Mountains were, came up out of the water.
So this whole area, for those of you who don't know, was a very shallow ocean. Um, when they say shallow, I'm not quite sure what that means, but my in everything we've read, it seems like they're really only talking a few feet deep,
I think it might be more than that.
maybe. Uh, but the way all this information reads, it's not, we're not talking thousands of feet deep, like what you might consider ocean to be.
What was your experience the first time of visiting Panorama Point?
Uh, so as I said, there's not a whole lot of trail there, but there are several um, city areas uh, uh, and some picnic tables um, that, that all have wonderful views. So the, the first time we went, even though I wanted to go all the way to the top, Megan chose to stop there because that was enough of a drive for her. Yeah, I remember getting out and rushing over to the edge and just looking out at this vast expanse, which is really the beginning of the thing. And I, even though it's only a corner of the way up, I, I felt like we were so hard. Uh, and I felt so tiny at the edge of this fence. Um, I just marveled at the, the smallness that I felt inside. It was wonderful.
And I had that same experience as well, just staring out for miles and looking at the horizon and just feeling so small compared to this vast landscape. We've been back. Oh, go ahead.
It was really wonderful. Uh, I know you had your camera with you and you were playing with that, but I just sat there and meditated. And I remember at one point this pair of red-tailed hawk started to play right below eye line, and I got so absorbed in the sight that I felt like I was flying with them. It was really, really wonderful. And every time there was a gust of wind, it would hit me at the same time it hit them. And so they would rise into the blue expanse, and I just felt like I would float up with them.
That's such a cool and phenomenal experience. I know that for me, the time where I loved going to Panorama Point the most was when we watched the eclipse when your mom came and visited. And we went out with our eclipse glasses. It looked like movie glasses and sat on the bench to watch the eclipse. It was really fun because there was this gathering of people, and some stopped. They didn't even know what was happening, and we would just all share different glasses and the little square mirrors or cloth. I can't remember exactly what it was, but somebody else had something that was similar to the glasses. And we just had this really shared experience watching the eclipse together.
Yeah, that was really fun. I, I, and I remember we went really early that day, like a couple hours before it began, because we expected people might go there. And we got really lucky because we ended up in the exact same spot that I talked about a minute ago. And 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 there were a lot of people that had the same idea, but very few stayed around as long as we did. So there was this wonderful opportunity to connect with random people.
We also got the whole experience. A couple of times I walked up and down the path, which does have some stair steps with it, and had that very eclipse disorienting feel of trying to keep my balance, and you could see the half moons between the leaves of the trees. And to be able to really fully experience that was, um, it was just so unique and different. I'm really glad we did that.
Yeah, I remember an eclipse way back, like 10 years ago before we moved. And it was really cold body, but there was, I don't know if it was the elevation or the difference in atmosphere, but there was something that felt much more disorienting in this, in this landscape that I remember being back in North Carolina.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Yeah. So if you keep driving up Flagstaff Mountain, the main road, halfway in between there is Halfway House, and we have actually not stopped completely at the Halfway House, but it is there as a stopping point.
It's on a list. Um, I can't tell if there's much of a trail or if it's as well. Um, it is in the guidebook, so it is on our list at some point.
And there is one or two other points along the way before the summit to stop.
But the summit is our absolute favorite spot. The first time we went there, we really had not done our research and realized, read about it in the accessible guidebook, even though it's there. Um, and it was almost better that we had because we were blown away by what we found.
In the drive up there, there are a lot of curves and switchbacks back and forth, so you do have to go very slowly. Is about a 4 mile drive. I figured that out. Be from
Wow,
the bottom to the summit. And there is a turn that goes up the summit road, and then Flagstaff Road keeps going, and we haven't really explored that area either. So that's really on our list.
beyond the summit.
The Summit Road is closed in the winter. I think it's going to open in late May
Yep,
for the summer months. And
I can't wait.
and the first time that we went was on July 4th. So I had the day off, and we just decided to go for the day.
Um, so there are two parking lots. A lower parking lot and upper. I think we parked on the lower lot. Um, because we can really better. And again, there's because the lower lot faces east. There are very similar views to what we talked about with Panorama Park. Um, but we got out and wandered a little bit around the Pangina areas, um, both upper and lower, um, and everything around there is paved, so it's easier to navigate. Um, there is a bit of a climbing going up to the upper lot. Yeah. So if you're in the manual, be warned. But um, Bonnie could do it all the time, and once you're in the upper lot, it's not uncommon to see bicyclists come in, hopping and falling from having traversed the whole 4 mile trip up and then turn around and go back down. um, um, I prefer the views from the upper lot because it's on a bit of a ridge and you get views both to the east and the west.
And there are a lot of different places to explore at the summit. There is an amphitheater as well as a nature center. We have also not been in the nature center yet, only because we've wanted to be out on the trails and outside so much. There is also a little trail called Artist Lookout. It is not accessible, so Barton hasn't been down that one. So I've walked a couple of times to Artist Lookout, where there's a little trail with some rocks and roots, tree roots to step over, to a lookout point that goes both east and another one that goes west. And that is,
Instead going from that point, are you able to see north at all?
you can see north a little bit, but there are a lot of trees, and so the views aren't full wide views. But and the trail's not very long either. It's a very, very short walk.
Our dog's talking because she also talking about hiking and she wants to go.
And I said the W word.
Yeah, I don't know if she heard it.
And then what we found was this little path that leads to a sensory trail. And we thought this was the coolest place. It's not very long, but there is a rope as a guide along the side of the trail itself. And there are signs along the way that are both written and in Braille to offer opportunities to stop and explore the walk and the hike from the sensory aspects and elements.
There are a few lessons, lessons, seasons where he talks about common birds that nest at the summit. There are also some casual seasons with various kinds of foliage and rock to feel the experience.
So, July 4th, we went to the sensory trail and we kept walking beyond it.
We so, so we found the teacher I was already blown away because I was very impressed by the deliberate work around accessibility that is done upon the summit to make the hiking experience really impressive. So, oh, 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 uh, I tend to want more adventure in my life. I was just thrilled to see this individual act of inclusion.
Yeah, and so we kept walking and ended up finding a sign specifically indicating a wheelchair trail that was part of the Ute trails.
And I saw this, so and listen, I was already excited. When when I found this, I was just blown away. Um, I tore off, I tore off down this trail with no regard for where me was. Um, it's about a mile long and it runs through this grove of um oh, I forget the name of the type of pine.
There's
Just,
ponderosa and spruce, I think is
yeah,
what we found up
yeah,
there.
yeah, the pine road. I, I had never seen a pine road to pine before, and so being among these trees was awesome. And at this point, you are over 9,000 feet. So not only are you amongst these awesome pines, but you are also eye level to some of the most um, gorgeous flat irons with their red rock and sharp spires. And it's
I
really cool.
love this view. It is my favorite view of like being able to walk through the ponderosa and the spruce. And then there's this like opening and clearing where you can see the flat irons and the mountains as well. And I just the view itself just takes your breath away.
Yeah. And if you keep going, um, there's a point where the Earth trail divides and the accessible trail goes up easy and down, while the main trail goes down into the valley. So I was this. I went up there in Central Park and it opens into this incredible vista of the Rocky Mountains, which sit behind the Flatiron and are much higher. So we were, as I said, at 9,000 feet,
I
and
think it's a little lower than that. I think it's around 7,000 is the actual summit up there. But
amazing.
really, yeah, really looking over, it feels like you're that high.
And thank you for the question. But the, the peak that you are looking out at are between 11 and 13,000.
Mhm.
So this is probably my favorite view that we found so far. Um, I can sit there for hours.
There's some boulders and rocks to sit on, as well as a tree that has grown in between the boulders and offers some shade as well. But it is very sunny around that spot.
If you're in a wheelchair, um, the gravel can be a bit loose in spots, um, especially in the spring, because there's some drainage points for snow after after the vote. Um, so you might want to be a little careful about getting dug in. I've done that more than once already. Um,
I
um,
could sit there for hours just like Barton, and I think what strikes me is the quiet. It feels so quiet in that space. And if you settle down, you become part of that quiet.
um, mhm, uh, and, uh, it's always fun for me to see what 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 interrupts that quiet, and then how, how long it takes me for that deep quiet to reach and develop me.
Yeah.
Um, there are some typical birds other than birds of prey. Um, such as mongoose and mountain beauties that seem to disrupt that quiet from
Mhm.
time to time. Uh, but that all passes and the silence just grabs you. Um, you know, the first time we were out there, I I I shared with Megan. Um, First of all, because it was the 4th of July, I thought this was better than any fireworks that I'd ever seen. But more importantly, I got to thinking about um my family and what my family called uh, um I I I believe I mentioned in the last episode that my family loves hiking and they spent years and years in the White Mountains every summer. Um, in fact, my great granddad was the first person to do to, to photographical map of White Mountains and the President Range. So I think it's really in my being and one of the biggest things in my family was it had always been getting above tree line because that is where the best views are. And back east, I was never able to do those trails. And so you're never able to get above tree line on but only hiking. So when I found this space, there was a way that I felt more connected to my lineage than I ever had before, simply because the vista made me feel like I had as good a view as any hike that was possible back in the White Mountains.
And to witness your joy, Barton, and your delight, like rolling down the trail with my trying to keep up with you and finding this opening out of the trees and being able to see, the view from that point, it just gave me such amazing delight to see how excited you were, to see your joy and how much closer it brought you to your own family to experience that along the trail. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit because in that fork in the road that Barton mentioned, you go to the left, you go up the chair, trail out to the vista. And if you go to the right, it's not an accessible trail. But you know us, we had to go try
I couldn't help myself.
it.
Uh,
And this was in your old wheelchair, Barton. So that's another element we have
yeah.
to add to this story.
Yeah. I can't wait to try it again this one.
So we did find this trail that kind of veers over to the right. It goes down a little bit, and there's one rock formation um, where I could climb up the boulder and again get some amazing views. And Barton stayed at the bottom and walked around the
And
bottom of it.
yeah, I was able to get around the back of the boulder. I had fun. I had fun exploring that while videos of doing her thing.
So, do you want me to tell the story? You tell it.
Yeah, go.
So, there has to be something that happens, right? So Barton was navigating the roots along the trail, trying to avoid the roots and the rocks, and of course, slid off of the trail into a little ditch.
And I bear in mind there's a lot of tall grass up there along the trail. Um, so when I lit off, I just saw a little drop of a couple inches. I was wrong. It was about not quite a foot, maybe 10 inches, but certainly enough to give me a bit of a gasp.
And it was a little mushy underneath, which means that not only did Barton go off of the trail, you also got stuck with the wheels spinning.
Yeah, Megan tried to hard to tell me almost by herself. And, uh, we gave up on that after a few minutes when it was obvious that that wasn't working. And we had to wait for some random hiker to pass by to enlist for their muscles.
Motor wheelchairs are 600 pounds. They are not light. They are very heavy. So it is easier if you have somebody in the back and somebody in the front working in both directions to push and pull the wheels out.
We and we did get right on the trail. Um, I did behave, behave myself a little bit after that. Although,
Behave. That's not a word in your vocabulary.
not really. I did for 5 minutes that day. Uh, um, but I am dying to go back with this new chair and try it because I do believe I could get further than I did.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we're both really itching to get back to the trail when it opens.
Mhm. And we're almost there. Just a few more weeks. So, um, that's that's that stuff. So from all crazy then. Uh,
And we recommend it so much. We've taken family members there and spent time with them there. It really is one of the best views and offers just a lot of different opportunities to explore and get out in the wilderness.
yeah, and you don't have to get stuck if you don't want to. Although it is fun.
If you don't turn off to the Summit Road, Flagstaff Road, as I mentioned, keeps going. And there's still a lot of spots that we want to stop and explore. So we have not done everything we have wanted to do. And what I love about that is that it offers more. Like there's a reason to go back and a reason to like stop at the next place or explore the next pull off. So there's a lot more for us to do. I can't wait.
In the excuse for adventure or game.
Well, thanks so much for coming along this trail, and we look forward to exploring the next one. And is my turn for the post ramble of what I call it. For our video descriptions today, we have Barton Cutter, who is a white male with blue eyes and salt and pepper regal hair. Um, Wearing a white sweatshirt today because it is a little cool out and we got 6 inches of snow over the weekend, which is now melted. Um, Barton uses a motor wheelchair and is in our living room with white walls behind him. And on the video throughout the episode, our little husky Tundra, who is a black and white husky, walks back and forth behind him
And speak very often.
and speaking very often in husky language. I am Megan Cutter, a white female with brown eyes and brown hair. I am wearing glasses today and I have white spirals on my hearing aids today. I'm wearing a blue tie-dye long sleeve t-shirt or blouse. And behind me are bookshelves with lots of books and a partition with a Japanese motif on it and a photograph with woods and sun. And then we have Jenny Moorfield, who is a white female with brown eyes and red hair, also wearing glasses today in a black mid sleeve shirt. Awesome. Now for the fun stuff. We hope our adventures today have served your own hunger for life, whether laughter, tears, joy, or in community with others. We want to share our deep appreciation today to Jenny Moorfield, our ASL interpretation on video, and Shane Dittmar for our music. You can find more of our creative explorations at laughingtrails.com. Subscribe to our Patreon, which is Patreon. Barton, you'll have to confirm this because I still don't have it in my memory. Um,
Patreon.com/Laughing Trails.
/Laughing Trails. We put some of our bloopers. We have started adding photographs as well as B-roll video for Flagstaff because We have loved it so much. We will add video from my birthday where I spent time on Flagstaff, as well as pictures of the trail and Barton just having so much fun on the trail. And then we've been adding other creative treats on the Patreon site as well. There's some poetry offerings that we'll be adding from both of us as we are both poets. Inclusive formats.
and some essays other writing outside of hiking stuff.
So there's a lot on the Patreon page to explore. Inclusive formats to the podcast include our audio version, video with ASL interpretation, and written transcription, which I have fallen very behind, but we'll be adding that as well. A special thank you to today's sponsor, Barton Cutter Coaching at bartoncutter.com. Limiting editing as we're still figuring things out. And why would you edit life out anyway? We're leaving in all the good stuff, including husky barks, laughs, coughs, because life doesn't come in any other fashion but fun. See you next time.